Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. O Lord, let all be happy, let all be healthy, let all attain goodness, let none get misery. Om, peace, peace, peace. On behalf of Shri Ramakrishna Ashrama Rajkot, Gujarat, India, I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants, sisters, brothers, friends watching this program online, our honorable speakers, and all the other dear friends. We start our program with invocation by Swami Shankareshananda.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatana Shrunvannutibhis Sedasadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinamavitravatu Ano Divo Brihatah Parvatada Saraswati Yajata Gantu Yajñam Vagdevye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shanno Mitra Shamvarunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaiः stuštuvagum sastanubhihi Veshema devahitam yadayuhu Swasti na indro vriddhashravaha Swasti nah pusha vishvavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Yaschandasa Mrishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamritaat Sambabhuva Samendro Medhaya Sprunotu Amritasya Devadharano Bhuyasam Shariram Me Vicharshanam Jivva Me Madhumattama Karna Abhyam Bhumi Vishruvam Brahmana Koshosi Medhaya Pihitaha Shrutam Me Gopaya Om Shanti Shanti शान्तिः हरिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ
Dear friends, just now we had the Vedic chanting by Swami Shankareshanandji Maharaj. I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for this international webinar on Swami Vivekananda and interfaith harmony for world peace. As you know, today is 11th September, and that is why this webinar is being organized in order to commemorate the 128th anniversary of the historic speech delivered by Swami Vivekananda on 11th September 1893. In that program, Parliament of Religions, World's Parliament of Religions, Swami Vivekananda had told that we must say goodbye to all sorts of fanaticism. But we did not listen to his message of harmony of religions. We did not listen to his message of sending off fanaticism or persecution. So what happened? That was also 9/11 when Swami Vivekananda spoke. And exactly after 108 years, there was another 9/11 when the twin World Trade Centers got demolished. One of the reasons was fanaticism, as we all know. And so, in order that such unfortunate incidents like 9/11 does not take place, we should have such interfaith programs from time to time, and especially on 9/11, so that no further 9/11 takes place. Many branch centers of Ramakrishna Math Mission, they have such programs today. Today also, many programs are being organized by many centers. As far as Ramakrishna Ashrama Rajkot is concerned, every year we organize such event. Last year, 11th September, we had webinar instead of seminar because of the coronavirus pandemic. And that was done in collaboration with the Parliament of World's Religions, Chicago. Because of the advancement in communication technology, the world has been united physically as never before. It has become a global village. The globalization has come on physical plane and on economic front. But where is the global peace? Global peace cannot come till the clash between civilizations stops and a global civilization emerges. And this global civilization will come only when we say goodbye to all sorts of fanaticism, when there is harmony between various faiths. Religion has been one of the great civilizing forces in the human history, but also, unfortunately, the source of much conflict that continues down to the present day. The great religions of the world have a great responsibility to work for the global civilization because they still influence billions of human beings on this planet. The golden thread of spiritual realization that weaves together all the great religious traditions of the world needs to be strengthened so that in this age of globalization, we can shed the baggage of fanaticism, fundamentalism, and bigotry, and can build a global civilization for global peace. And for this, the only solution is spreading the message of interfaith harmony, and what is more important is practicing it at individual level as well as organizational level. Ramakrishna Mission is committed to the task of spreading the message of interfaith harmony right from its inception in 1897, not only by organizing webinars and seminars such as this one, but also by observing the birthdays of great saints of various religions, and by celebrating Christmas Eve, Eid, Buddha Jayanti, Mahavir Jayanti, Guru Nanak Jayanti, etc. All the service activities are conducted for the public without any distinction of caste, creed, color, or religion. In fact, anyone who wants to become a member of Ramakrishna Mission has to write in members' declaration form, quote, "I look upon all religions as paths to God and shall try to live in peace and fellowship with the followers of all religions," unquote. So, this webinar is a part of our efforts of this interfaith harmony. We all know the present scenario when world peace is at stake, when we all know that interfaith harmony is the need of the hour, and it is in this context the message of Swami Vivekananda is becoming more and more important, more and more relevant. And that is why we have organized this webinar, and we are so happy that many celebrities have joined this webinar. We are grateful to all these honorable speakers who have joined us today and who are going to share their important thoughts on this particular important topic. We now start with our program. Rather than I saying something, let us hear from our very learned speakers. Our first speaker is Swami Suviranandaji Maharaj, the General Secretary of Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. In spite of being busy, he is very busy, as you know. He is the General Secretary, the administrative head of an international organization having 250 centers all over the world, official, and 1,000 non-affiliated centers. All this administration he has to do. In spite of that, he found out time for us. We are really grateful to him that he spared out of his busy schedule time for sending his video message. Swami Suviranandaji Maharaj, the General Secretary of the Worldwide Ramakrishna Math and Mission, with the headquarters at Belumat. He was headmaster of Ramakrishna Mission School in Alo, that is Arunachal Pradesh, and subsequently as the secretary there. After spending 12 years in Alo, Maharaj moved in 1997 to Ramakrishna Mission Vidyapit in Devghar, Jharkhand, and took charge as secretary of the center. In 2006, he was elected a trustee of the Ramakrishna Math and a member of the governing body of Ramakrishna Mission. In the following year, he moved to the headquarters, Belumat, to serve as Assistant General Secretary of Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission, a post which he held for about 10 years. He was appointed General Secretary of the Tuna organization in May 2017, and he is continuing in that post. Revered Maharaj is a popular orator and has also authored a large number of articles, especially on education and values. He is known for his administrative acumen, affable behavior, and genuine humility. We are really honored to have the video message of Swami Suviranandaji Maharaj, General Secretary, Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission.
Namaste Yotirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Sarupaya Swamine Tapoharine. Friends and admirers of Swami Vivekananda, in the beginning, I would like to express my gratitude to Swami Nikhileswarananda ji, the head of our center at Rajkot, for inviting me to address in this international webinar on Swami Vivekananda and interfaith harmony for the world peace. This is organized by Ramakrishna Ashrama, Rajkot, to celebrate 128th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's historic appearance in the World's Parliament of Religions held at Chicago in 1893. I am glad that many dignitaries, respected and dear monks, and many other distinguished scholars have come together through this international webinar. They say, cometh the hour, cometh the man. It was a divine will that Swami Vivekananda proclaimed the message of harmony and peace before the August assembly that had gathered at Chicago on 11 September 1893 in the first ever World's Parliament of Religions. Through Vivekananda, India had sent forth the message of peace and harmony to the West, and he addressed the audience beautifully with utmost eloquence and a tremendous impulse of love for humanity. He said, if one religion is true, all others must be true. Quoted. And again, in expanding the same idea, he said, I quote, we know that all religions, from the lowest fetishism to the highest absolutism, are but so many attempts of the human soul to grasp and realize the infinite. So, we gather all these flowers and binding them together with the cord of love, make them into a wonderful bouquet of worship. Unquote. To the heart of Vivekananda, none was foreign or alien. For him, there existed only humanity and truth. An American intellectual remarked, if Columbus discovered the soil of America, Vivekananda discovered the soul of America. We should say Vivekananda rediscovered the soul of India too. Swami Vivekananda was a great harmonizer. Sister Nivedita wrote about her master, quote, unquote, it is this which adds its crowning significance to our master's, meaning thereby Vivekananda's life. For here, he becomes the meeting point, not only of East and West, but also of past and future. No distinction henceforth between sacred and the secular. To labor is to pray, to conquer is to renounce, life is itself religion. Quoted. There is a good deal of variance and diversities, no doubt, in the external aspect of religions, that is, rituals, customs, and doctrines. But there is, at the same time, a great measure of similarity in their inner spiritual dimensions. There should be an attitude of acceptance towards different religions, not mere tolerance. Speaking about this, Swami Vivekananda said, I quote, not only toleration, for so-called toleration is often blasphemy, and I do not believe in it. I believe in acceptance. I accept all religions that were in the past and worship them all. Unquote. Swamiji's words are immortal. They will never die. It is therefore in the fitness of things that people without any distinction of caste or creed, color or complexion remember Vivekananda in every nook and corner of the world. Today, let us all join our hands to salute Swami Vivekananda on this historic occasion of the 128th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's appearance in the Parliament of Religions. Let me wrap up by chanting a mantra from the Rig Veda which emphasizes the unity of minds for the prosperity and happiness of all and to promote fellow feelings and righteousness. Samanu mantra samiti samani samanang manaha sahachittvesham samaniva akutihi samana hridayaniva samanam astuvo mano yathavo susahasuti. May we all live in harmony, speak in one voice, and let our minds be in harmony. May our purpose be the same. May we all be of one mind. In order for such unity to form, I offer a common prayer. May our intentions and aspirations be alike, so that a common objective unifies us all. Thank you again so very much, Swami Nikhileshwarananda ji, for having remembered me on this momentous occasion. I take the privilege of conveying my deep personal regards for each participant. Thank you so much. Thank all of you.
That was a very inspiring speech by Swami Suviranandji Maharaj, the General Secretary of Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. We are really honored to listen to his words. And I think if we follow in the footsteps of Swami Vivekananda, as advised by him, we will have a better world. Our next speaker is Sri Nitin Bhai Ajmera, the Chairperson of the Parliament of Religions. Sri Nitin Bhai Ajmera, the Chairperson of the Board of the Parliament of the World's Religions, Chicago, USA, is a senior management professional and practitioner of Digambar Jain tradition. He is Chief Financial Officer at New York Sports Club and its family of brands. He also teaches at Drexel University. He has been associated with the Jain Center of America, New York, and Jain Samaj of Long Island in many capacities, ranging from a teacher in Jain Sunday School, committee chair, to the president. We are really very much honored. Sri Nitin Bhai Ajmera has joined us in spite of his very, very busy schedule. He had time for us. That shows his commitment to interfaith harmony. We know it's a big celebration going on for the Jains. Paryushan is going on. Just yesterday it has ended and Michchami Dukkadam is going on. And even today we are receiving the message on WhatsApp on Michchami Dukkadam. At that time, to take out the time for us, really, we are very, very thankful to Sri Nitin Bhai. And I will humbly request now Nitin Bhai to take over the mic and please deliver his inspiring speech. Sri Nitin Bhai Ajmera.
Jai Janain Sabhiko, a very Jai Janain to all of you. Sarva Mangal Mangalyam Sarva Kalyana Karanam Pradhanam Sarva Dharmanam Jainam Jaiti Shasanam Jainam Jaiti Shasanam. Brothers and sisters, Swami Nikhileshwarananda ji, Jayesh Bhai, my fellow Parliament trustees, and all the listeners. It is such a privilege today to talk to all of you in front of you on almost 128 years ago, when Swami Vivekananda was speaking at the Parliament. And today, I stand in front of you as a humble servant of the same tradition, but as a chairperson of the Parliament of the World Religions. The opportunity, the blessings that I have received from various as I took this position is beyond words. And I continue to ask for your support as I execute the duties of the chair of the Parliament of the World Religions. 128 years ago, if we look at the world at that time, we say it used to happen that way. It used to be that Swamiji and Veerchand Raghav Gandhiji, who went for the Jain delegation, and Dharmpalaji, it took them a journey by sea that almost lasted 2 months. Today, we can talk to each other on Zoom and various medias on digital platform. While it may look like the world has advanced, and it may look like we have come far away, but the words of Swamiji Vivekananda still are true. The world has not moved from its bigotry, from its fanaticism, from its selfish desire to prove themselves to be the only people that are consuming the resources of the world. And as such, almost 128 years ago, later, the parliament that we are all associated with still has a lot of work to do. A lot of things have to change. A lot of dialogue has to take place. A lot of action has to come in favor of the humanity that we represent. So many times when I talk to people, they talk to me about, oh yeah, the parliament happened in 1893. Oh yeah, Swamiji and Veerchand Raghav Gandhi came. Oh yeah, the parliament only does conventions now, 1 in 2, 3 years. But that's not what the parliament stands for. The parliament is not about the past or its convenings. The parliament is about the existence of a dialogue that is so much needed to create harmony, love, peace, justice for all. When we went through this pandemic in 2020, which is not over yet by any means, we all thought we had plans to go to Mars and settle in Mars. We have plans there. And yet,
Hello. We are getting in touch with Nitin Bhai Ajmera. Maybe that has become automatically muted. He has mutated himself. We are telephoning him.
can you see me, guys? Because everybody, I thought I got disconnected, though I felt like I continue to speak. My apologies. I don't know what happened, but so what I was saying was that the world today is no far different from 1893. It is the same world where fanaticism is up. Women are still being mistreated. We are still discussing humanity based on what color of our skin is. We continue to talk about every wall that divides us, every wall, whether it is a national boundary or our faith, our religion, our creed, our caste, our sex, everything. So the words that Swamiji said in 1893 are relevant today also. And as Swami Nikleshwara said, we have not heard him. We have not worked on what he told us to do. And there is so much yet to do for us. And in that same parliament, we also had Veerchand Raghav Gandhi represent Jainism. Veerchand Raghav Gandhi ji was a very good friend of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi ji has reference to him in his autobiography as a kind of a spiritual leader that he followed and he continued to follow throughout the Indian nationalist movement. And in my reflections of an understanding of all this, I believe that a small humble beginning in 1893 created a dialogue that created these two men, not many more. These two have shaped and guided the world since then. Through their teachings, they influenced people like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, and various others. And these people carried their things forward to a world that we know today, a world that is not ruled by certain countries of Europe, but every country is independent. But the question is, what next? What now? When will we as humanity start thinking about the things that need to change? Every day we see some or the video clip of some glacier melting away in the Arctic and the Antarctic. We see our weather creating much more catastrophic effect on our society than what they used to do about 20, 30 years ago. We continue to see women being harassed, mistreated, not dealt with. We see various agitations, whether it is the whether it is the streets of Washington, Chicago, or India or Japan. Everywhere we have seen agitations based on disagreement from the rule of the concept of color or race or background or religion. And to that effect, the question is, where do we go from here? And how do we change this? So when I started getting associated with Parliament, one thing that deeply impacted me is our global ethics statement. Something that is so true for mankind to continue to go forward. The following of the Global Ethics Declaration, as it was done in the 1993 Parliament, should be the primary focus of mankind. And in that global ethics, I see shades of the teachings of Bhagwan Mahavir in ahimsa, anekantvad, aparigrah. And something that I start to believe as me myself is we need to add to that something that Mahavir Bhagwan created deeply in Jain faith, and we need to bring forward, and that is Shama, or forgiveness. We need to learn to forgive each other. We need to learn to forgive the past. We need to learn how to move forward with the present. And every time we discuss the present or the future, we cannot discuss the past. Whether it is us, whether it is our forefathers, if anyone did anything, we need to forgive them. I would like to take an example of what Mahatma Ji said to all of us during the Indian nationalist movement of getting freedom. He said to us, I hate the British Raj, I don't hate the Britishers. He was always against somebody else ruling us, but he was not against the person that was ruling us. So the theory or the concept is where we have to change things. We have to forgive the people that are carrying those messages. And sometimes we get involved in this, that you are doing it or you are the person. And I come from this Jain faith where I try to bring forward to people that Shama is very important in our world that is going to be the future. So ahimsa, anekantvad, aparigraha are talked about a lot. We need to start talking about Shama, forgiveness, because without that, we will never move forward. We will continue to live in the past, and we will always be angry with each other. And if we are continuing to remain angry with each other, we will never get with anywhere. So I would like to end with a small prayer that is celebrating the concept of Shama or Shamavani or Samvatsari as it is today and yesterday in different faiths. Khamami savve jiveshu, savve jiva kamantu me, mitti me savve bhuvesu, veram majhanam kenavi. I forgive all the living beings. All the living beings forgive me. I am friendly towards all the living beings, and no one is my enemy. Michami Dukram, I ask forgiveness from all of you. Jai Jinendra, and many thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of you. Jai Jinendra.
Thank you very much. That was a very thoughtful speech by Shri Nitin Bhai Ajmera, and all the important teachings of Jainism were given in nutshell in such a short time. By the way, he referred to Sri Virchand Gandhi. I am happy to tell you, Sri Virchand Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda were great friends, and both helped each other in Chicago, because both were speakers at the World Parliament of Religions in 1893, and they continued to remain in USA for the preaching work, and both were very popular speakers, and both helped each other during their difficulties. So we remember Sri Virchand Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda both. Virchand Gandhi was Jain, and here is Nitin Bhai Ajmera, also coming from the same community. So we are thankful to Nitin Bhai Ajmera. Thank you very much. In spite of a busy schedule, you have spared your time for us. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Dholi Dastur. Dr. Dholi Dastur is a vice chairperson of the Parliament of World Religions. She has attended the conventions of all parliaments, all, starting with the centennial celebration in Chicago in 1993. I think that's a very rare feat. She is a practicing Zoroastrian and was the president of the Zoroastrian Association of Quebec and the president of Federation of Zoroastrian Associations of North America from 1994 to 1998, and chaired the World's Zoroastrian Congress 2000 in Houston, which had the largest gathering of Zoroastrians. Since 2005, she is the editor-in-chief of the quarterly publication of her community, the Fezana Journal. She is also a clinical psychologist specializing in the diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and chairs the education committee of the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging. She lives in Montreal, Canada. We are very much honored to have Dr. Dholi Dastur for this parliament, for this international webinar. Now, I humbly request Dr. Dholi Dastur to give her presentation.
Namaskaram, respected Swamijis, and everybody present on the screen as well as at home. Thank you for inviting me to speak a few words on the 128th anniversary of the attendance of Swami Vivekananda at the First Parliament of World Religions in 1893, and on the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001, the day of terrible tragedy in New York, when thousands of lives were destroyed through death and destruction This is a good moment to reflect on the genesis of the Parliament and how it has evolved into the largest and most important interfaith organization. The first Parliament was convened as an auxiliary event with the World Columbian Exposition, billed as an exhibition for humankind's prowess and mastery of the sciences. This was a climatic event in the history of the world, as it was felt at that time that everything that can be invented has been invented. But the religions of the world were not to be left behind in making their presence felt, and the 1893 Parliament can well be said to have heralded the first interfaith movement. Over 400 persons from 41 religious traditions spoke to audiences of 4,000 to 5,000 each day. In his welcome address, Charles Bonney, President of the Congress, expressed the hope that the Congress marks the beginning of a new epoch of brotherhood and peace. Unfortunately, that hope is still to be realized. It was the first time that in 1893 the religions of the East and the West met. Foremost among the speakers from the East was Swami Vivekananda, who arrived in Chicago on his own, with hardly any resources and no place to stay, and soon won over the assembly with his commanding presence and oratory. He said, and I'm quote, "I'm proud of being of a religion that has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. I'm proud to belong to the religion that has sheltered and is still fostering the remnants of the great Zoroastrian nation." But the story of the connection between Swami Vivekananda and the Zoroastrianism goes before the Swami arrived in Chicago. The year was 1893. On May 31st, aboard a steamer that sailed from Yokohama to the Canadian port of Vancouver, aboard SS Empress of India, a luxury steamship belonging to the Canadian Pacific Steamship Company. On board were two great Indians who met for the first time. One was an industrialist who would go on to become one of India's greatest visionaries, Jamshedji Tata, and the other was a monk, Swami Vivekananda, who would take India's spiritual tradition to the West more effectively than ever before. Both of them realized the impact both of them did not realize the impact they would make on each other and the monumental result of their thinking and philosophy on the world. While the two had seen each other earlier, Jamshedji and Vivekananda had not had time to engage in lengthy conversations. They did now, and when they met again on the promenade of the ship, they got talking. Vivekananda narrated to Jamshedji the experiences he had gained during his travels throughout the length and breadth of India as a wandering monk in the quest of truth. He talked about the relentless oppression and repression of his fellow Indians he had seen at the hands of the colonial authorities. Furthermore, he spoke about how, during his visit to Canton in Gansu in China, he had come across many Sanskrit and Bengali manuscripts in Buddhist monasteries. He also explained that taking the faith to the West and calling for unity between the world's major religions was the mission of his first visit to the World Parliament of Religions, and the Parliament still abides by that mission. They also discussed Japan's phenomenal progress in technology and Jamshedji's plan of laying the foundation of the steel industry to India. The founder of one of largest conglomerates, Jamshedji also explained that he was in search of equipment and technology that would help make India a strong industrial nation. Vivekananda endorsed the mission with enthusiasm, adding that real hope of India lay in the prosperity and progress of its ordinary millions. He also added that instead of importing matches from Japan, Jamshedji should manufacture them in India and help provide a livelihood to the rural poor. Impressed by Vivekananda's views on science and his deep-rooted patriotism, Jamshedji requested his guidance in his campaign in establishing a research institute in India. The visionary monk smiled and gave his blessings and remarked, "How wonderful it would be if we could combine the scientific and technological achievements of the West with the asceticism and humanism of India. Jamshedji and Vivekananda never met after that journey, but these words struck a chord in the industrialist's heart, and 5 years later, he wrote a letter to Vivekananda, and I quote, 23rd November 1898. Dear Swami Vivekananda, I trust you remember me as a fellow traveler on your voyage from Japan to Chicago. I very much recall at this moment your views on the growth of the ascetic spirit in India and the duty not of destroying, but of diverting it into useful channels. I recall those ideas in connection with my scheme of Research Institute of Science for India, of which you have doubtless heard or read. It seems to me that no better use can be made of the ascetic spirit than the establishment of monasteries and residential halls for men dominated by the spirit, that we could live with ordinary decency and devote their lives to the cultivation of sciences, natural and humanistic. I am of the opinion that if such a crusade in favor of asceticism of this kind were undertaken by a competent leader, it would greatly help us asceticism, science, and the good name of our common country. I know not of who would be a more fitting person of such a campaign than Vivekananda. Do you think you could care to apply yourself to the mission of galvanizing into life our ancient traditions in this respect? Perhaps you had better begin with a fiery pamphlet arousing our people in this matter. I would certainly defray all the expenses of the publications. With kind regards, I am, dear Swami, yours faithfully, Jamshedji Tata. Busy setting up the Ramakrishna Mission, Vivekananda was unable to accept the offer, but he promptly sent his disciple, Sister Nivedita, to meet Jamshedji. Working together, they formulated a detailed plan for the Research Institute, but it was promptly suppressed by the Viceroy of the time, Lord Curzon. However, Jamshedji persevered and continued to work on these plans, convinced that the future progress of the country depended crucially on research in science, and envisaged an institution that would encourage the same. Interestingly, Jamshedji's words also seem to have had an impact on Vivekananda. The book, The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda, includes the following report from the Salem Evening News of August 29, 1893. And I quote, according to Swami Vivekananda, the need of the people of India is not more religion or a better one, but as he expressed it, practicality. This with the hope of interesting the American people in this great need of the suffering, starving millions that he has come to this country. He said that missionaries had fine theories there and started with good ideas, but had done nothing for the industrial condition of the people. He said, instead of sending missionaries, it would be better if Americans sent someone who would give industrial education. And this is exactly what Jamshedji Tata did. Swami Vivekananda died in July 1902, and Jamshedji died 2 years later in 1904, unaware that the shared vision would be realized 5 years later. The Tata Institute of Science was born in 1909 and renamed the Indian Institute of Science in 1911. Today, it has become a world-class institute, the pride of India, and one of the premier research institutes in the world, giving technical and scientific education to millions of Indians, who has propelled India into a technological force in the world. Subsequent ventures of the Tata Group also included the establishment of the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in 1930 and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in 1940, all offshoot of the original vision. This chance encounter in 1893 and the respect between two visionaries, the men of science and the man of religion, nurtured the overlap of religion and science, which benefited the nation. We need more visionaries to implement their visions of interfaith harmony and world peace, working through the Parliament of World Religions, which is not a legislative body, but rather an assembly to create global dialogue between faiths, an opportunity to examine how we can live together in difference while also creating a just, peaceful, and sustainable world for all. The Parliament offers a rare opportunity to listen and exchange ideas with everyone from grassroots leaders to Nobel laureates. Each Parliament offers us the chance to enhance our lives by addressing critical agenda. And where do we go from here? How can we build the connections made? How do we pursue understanding and change in intrafaith dialogue? It is up to each one of us to make history together by participating in interfaith movements. And I would like to end with a quote from Richard Watts, and I quote, "It seems to me that the world's religions are like siblings separated at birth. We've grown up in different neighborhoods, different households, with different songs, stories, traditions, and customs. But now we've been reunited, and having found each other after so many years apart, we look into each other's faces and we can see the family resemblances. We are back again, and it's very good. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts and the ideas which was generated between the famous Swami Vivekananda, the spiritual family, Swami Vivekananda, and the Zoroastrian community with little bit contribution which could have made. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dholi Dastur. It was so nice of you to point out the relationship between Jamshedji Tata and Swami Vivekananda. Our next speaker is Swami Ishatmananda. Swami Ishatman is the minister in charge, Vivekananda Vedanta Society of Chicago, USA. He got associated with Ramakrishna Order at his branch center at Cherrapunji. He was the founder secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission, Port Blair and Andaman Islands. He was the principal cum secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission School, Narottam Nagar, that is Arunachal Pradesh. Under his leadership, the Vedanta Society of Chicago observed 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda in a grand way. In December 2014, he was appointed as one of the religious advisors at the University of Chicago. In January 2020, he has been selected as a trustee of the Parliament of World Religions. He has written many articles which have been published in various journals. So we are very fortunate to have Swami Ishatmananda, who is coming from Chicago. Chicago, we are remembering very much. So Ishatmanandaji, I will request Swami Ishatmanandaji to take up the mic.
Namaskar. So it was really wonderful when I got the invitation from Swami Nikhilashananda. He's a very good friend of mine, and I was thinking to say no. Then I said, no, I cannot say no to him. But anyway, as because I am committed to go to another place, I will take very short period. Friends, I will share my experience. When I visited that particular hall known as the Fullerton Hall nowadays, it was the Hall of Columbia. So there on the same stage is still kept. That wooden frame, that all, everything. So I went over there, and naturally as a Hindu, Indian, I was lying down on that, offering prostration. So when I was coming out, the lady officer who was there to open the door for etc., she told the sir, if you don't mind, can you please tell me why you were lying on that, as if you were showing some respect at that particular place. But this is a hall, so many things are happening over there. So I am a little bit curious, if you don't mind. I told, ma'am, I don't know how to express, but this is the place from where once again the call went out, and the millions and millions of Indian hearts were enlightened. And we broke the shackle of the suppressions that it is impossible to tell. And this is the place, if you have all read, and if you're interested, you can read And I will say this is the Kurukshetra. Once again, the religion was established over here. And the great saint came, a young Shanyashi. He stood over here and gave the call. Then I came out, and you know that wonderful that at the back and the screen, the Swami has given the picture of that building, that old building, but now it is little more modern. And there, two lions are there from the beginning itself, and the metallic lion, and I went and kept my hand on touching that one of the lion. I was imagining that a procession is coming through that path and slowly entering into the hall, all around people cheering and encouraging them. The 10 times the bell went ringing to introduce the 10 major religions over there, and they entered and sat on that platform. That was the first time in the human history the all religions they were sitting on the same platform. This was the brainchild of Mr. Charles Carroll Bonney, the C.C. Bonney. He was a lawyer, and he was one of the members of the program committee, and they were celebrating the 400 years of the Columbus, the discovering that land. The Columbian Exposition is one of the part of the, and then he mentioned, when it pleased God to give me the idea of the World's Congress of 1893, there came with that idea a profound conviction that the crowning glory should be a fraternal conference of the world's religions. Then he mentioned the term of this Congress, that the theme of this Congress, to unite all religion against all irreligion. And naturally, any Hindu will remember it is the Daiva Ashura, the religion and irreligion. Constantly, the fighting is going on. And it decided, the Congress decided, they will use the word religion to mean love and worship of God and love and service of man. This is the unique idea that they gave. And the majority of the people, they believe that the God always come and take the human form and to reestablish the Dharma, the Dharma Sthapana. So this time, Bhagavan Shri Ramakrishna came, the God in human form, and he practiced all religions. Those who have read the biography, you know. And that ideal was transmitted to Swami Vivekananda. 40,000 letters and documents went out to all over the world, inviting each and every sect. But very interestingly, no Hindu was invited over there. Perhaps they couldn't find any Hindu. But you know that 11th September 1893 was the Monday. And the Monday is considered as the Shiva's day. The Shombar is the Shiva's bar. And Swami Vivekananda is considered as the embodiment of Shiva. And this Shiva, without the Shiva, you cannot perform anything. He himself came. He got the inspiration. He was inspired, he was blessed, but very less information. So he reached over there on 30th July 1893, almost 40 days before the program. And what to do? It was so costly in Chicago. See how the God works. When he was traveling by train, he met a lady, that Sanborn, Miss Catherine Sanborn, and she invited the Swami to come and live with her in the Anisquam, a beautiful village. I have visited that place. It's near Boston. The condition was that she will introduce the Swami with the neighbors and the relatives and the friends, because the Indians were completely, in America there was no Indian. An Indian speaking English, and that was very impressive. So she wanted to tell her friends that I have something in my possession. And Swamiji thought it's good that I can save some money. So Swamiji went to an ISKCON and he lived over there. And there he met Professor John Wright, because the ladies, the Sunborn's brother was also a professor of the Harvard University, and he was a friend of the John Wright. And the John Wright came to him about this Hindu sannyasi. So he came to meet him at an ISKCON, and all the stories you all know. Swami Vivekananda took the letter and came back, and he reached back to Chicago on 9th September night. But that time he couldn't do anything. So I feel that the Lord God never wanted that his son should go and introduce the Hinduism with the help of a professor. I am not belittling the professor, but the God's will is different. So God wanted completely different way. Swamiji lost that address. Then he had to wait, and in a critical condition, he had lived that night. Next morning, without food, without water, nobody was welcoming him. He was going on wandering, and he lost that address, where to go. And ultimately, like that, in the Kurukshetra, as the Arjuna knelt down, the great hero knelt down before the God and said, Shishyasteham Swadhimam Tam Prapanyam. Similarly, Swami Vivekananda sat on the steps of a church, and perhaps he was also telling, let thy will be done, O God. And the miracle of Sri Ramakrishna started. Exactly opposite, then from the building and the Dearborn Street, and a lady came out. Usually in America, if there is someone unknown, immediately they will call police or they will ask them to go away. But here the lady herself crossed the road, came and called him, said, are you here as a representative of the parliamentary religion? And from there, the whole history began. That was the 10th September. 11th September is the program. And Swamiji was not there in that program. 10th September, afternoon, the lady and her husband, Mr. and Mrs. Hell. Then afterwards, Swami Vivekananda started calling them Father, Pope, Mother, Church. So they took him to all the officers, and in the evening there was a dinner, pre-parliament dinner, and in that dinner they got that permission Swami Vivekananda should speak. Friends, the Swami Vivekananda spoke for the whole of humanity. He welcomed them, as the many of the speakers very wonderfully, and in future also the other speakers will mention. But I think for India, why the Indians are remembering him so much? All the ambassadors, those who come here, I met 3 of them, and the 3 of them, they were telling Swamiji, first thing that we should do, we will go to the Chicago and bow down to that particular stage where Vivekananda gave the talk. Right from our childhood days, we are reading about the Chicago, and about that, the wonderful way that it mentioned that, but for Vivekananda, Raja Gopalachari mentioned, but for Vivekananda, we would not gain our freedom and would have lost our religion. The Vivekananda gave back the self-confidence. That is the only thing he gave to the Indians, self-confidence. After hundreds and hundreds of years under the subjugation, we were losing the self-confidence. We were thinking that we had to obey our masters. And Vivekananda told them, no, you are the children of immortal bliss. And Vivekananda gave the unity, freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom is the first condition of growth. I feel that he told this for the Indians. You had to break and those lions that was there, they were the symbol. As in our scripture it says, Nirgachati Jagat Jala Pinjara Divakeshari. The lions, when it is breaking all the chains that was binding it, and the tremendous power that expressed, that is Nirgachati Jagat Jala, like it should be. That is the Vedanta, self-confidence. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And the millions of people, they came out and they were facing the British the tyranny. And even the ladies also came out. All these days they were under the curtain. They should not come out. But now here, the Vivekananda gave them the call. And the thousands and thousands that came out. You must remember, right from your birth, you are dedicated for the service of your motherland. Vivekananda transformed from the praja to nagarik, from the subject to the citizenship. The citizenship, this is my country and I should do it. Friends, I will give you one incident. As the Swami mentioned, I was in a school in Arunachal Pradesh. It was inside the jungle. The children, the tribal children, and the 26th January when we were celebrating and we give the national flag, the few, they were running. One boy, he was running with the flag and he was uttering that time the Pakistan, India, some Siachen, it was going on. So he was telling, Kashmir, doodh mango to kheer denge. You know Hindi, most of you. Doodh mango to kheer denge. Kashmir mango to haath kaat denge. So I caught hold of him. Hey, where is Kashmir? He said, I don't know where is Kashmir. But that feeling came. We Indians, and we are united, and we should go out. And with what? With love, with affection, with service. That is exactly Swami Vivekananda. And that's why he started the monastic order. It is completely unique in the Hindu monastic order, completely unique. Thank you, friends. I should not take any time. That we should read Vivekananda more and more. I need that education by which one can stand on his own feet. Education, education, education. Education is the panacea of all evils. Jai Vivekananda. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Thank you very much, Swami Ishatmanandaji, for a very interesting story as the background of how Swami Vivekananda suffered before participating in the Parliament of World Religion and how, with the divine will, he could speak to the Parliament. Our next speaker is Ambassador Vishal Sharma. Ambassador Vishal Sharma is a permanent delegate of India to UNESCO. In post-graduation, he has done the executive program in business management from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, one of India's most prestigious business schools. He served as an independent director on the board of Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. Then at 42 years of age, Mr. Sharma became the youngest person in BPCL's history to serve as its director. In the past, he has also assisted the Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat in the initial stages of the Vibrant Gujarat program to attract investment and getting manufacturing projects to Gujarat state. He has written over 100 articles on various socio-economic issues in the Free Press Journal, the Pioneer, the Times of India, and the Organizer. These are all very prestigious journals of India. He is an ardent believer in UNESCO's potential to do good for all humanity and believes in the values of universal brotherhood and fraternity. Let us listen to the speech of Ambassador Vishal Sharma.
Namaste. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Shri Ramakrishna Ashrama, Rajkot, Gujarat, for organizing this international webinar on such an important theme, Swami Vivekananda and Interfaith Harmony for World Peace. The preamble of the Constitution of UNESCO declares, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Religion can play an important part in constructing defenses of peace in the minds of people. But when the ideas of sectarianism, bigotry, and fanaticism enter any religion, it becomes a source of spreading violence in society rather than spreading peace. Swami Vivekananda rightly pointed out in the World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago on 11th of September 1893, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant, fanaticism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilization and sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But their time is come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. Federico Mayor, the then Director General of UNESCO, in his inaugural speech of the exhibition and seminar in commemoration of the centenary of Swami Vivekananda's address at the World's Parliament of Religions, said on 8th October 1993, "There are many aspects of Swami Vivekananda's thoughts, his ideas and his social message, which make UNESCO a very good setting for celebration in France of the centenary of his parliament in the World's Parliament of Religions, held in Chicago 100 years ago then." He further added, "I am indeed struck by the similarity of the constitution of the Ramakrishna Mission, which Vivekananda established as early as 1897, with that of UNESCO drawn up in 1945. Both place the human being at the center of their efforts aimed at development, but place tolerance at the top of the agenda for building peace and democracy. Both recognize the variety of human cultures and societies as an essential aspect of the human heritage. Peace is a culture that must be carried forward every day by each of us. This is Swami Vivekananda's message, and it stands at the heart of the UNESCO's mandate." The world today is going through a challenging period of transition. We have seen many evils like racism, inter-ethnic strife, religious conflict, and terrorism returning with renewed force. Therefore, in its 211th Executive Board, UNESCO sought the revision of the 1974 recommendations on education. UNESCO in 1974 had brought out a historical recommendations for global education in which peace, harmony, and fundamental freedoms were brought together. But 47 years later, in 2021, in the 211th Executive Board, UNESCO sought its revision, stating that the conditions are insufficient to change mindsets. India intervened. We said that the conditions are insufficient to change mindsets because the outlook of global education has been materialistic. We desire it to be reoriented and become more humanist or holistic. While the augmentation of human knowledge is appreciable, what about the need to focus on the evolution of human consciousness? While IQ, intelligence quotient, is important, what about EQ, emotional quotient? We are all socio-emotional beings. And what about SQ, spiritual quotient? And India defined that spirituality is distinct from religion. We define spirituality as that component inherent in every human being, regardless of caste, creed, race, religion, economic situation in life. Spirituality is that component that helps connect one human with another. Spirituality is that component that helps you connect with the flora and fauna and helps you connect with the universe. We are all spiritual beings. And if our education is oriented towards that direction, then perhaps the next 47 years will usher in a new thought among human society. And then we would not have to bother about changing mindsets because we would have succeeded in changing the hearts of people. Education is the great alchemist. The alchemist of the yore had the ability to convert base metal into gold. It is education that is the alchemist today that can convert the materialistic hearts of people and give rise to a golden-hearted generation. This is what we hoped and we prayed for the revision of the 1974 recommendation to give a new orientation to global education. And therefore, I feel that seminars and webinars like this, as being conducted by the Ramakrishna Mission, are a source of renewed strength and encouragement to fight, to give rise to a new humanity, and to walk on the path with confidence as shown by Swami Vivekananda. Namaste and Jai Hind.
We are grateful to Ambassador Vishal Sharma ji for sending his video message in spite of his busy schedule. At a very short notice, he agreed. He stays in Paris. It was difficult to contact him, but still he agreed and sent the video right in time. Our next speaker is Swami Sarvasthananda. Is the minister in charge, Ramakrishna Vedanta Center, Bonn End, Buckinghamshire, near London. He is also the editor of the international journal Vedanta, published by the UK Center since 1953. He served at Shri Ramakrishna Ashrama, Rajkot, India, in various capacities for more than 30 years. That included being the editor of the Gujarati monthly Shri Ramakrishna Jyot for nearly 17 years. So, that is why we have a full right on him. 30 years he was there. So whenever we call him, he is at our beck and call. And that's how he is here today. He tours extensively all over the globe, addressing on various spiritual topics in universities and various other forums. He represented Ramakrishna Mission in a UNESCO conference on youth and their social impact held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2017, and also in Tunisia in 2018. Since June 2017, he has been appointed as one of the 3 official monastic representatives of Ramakrishna Mission to the UNESCO events wherever they are held from time to time in different countries of the world. So he is a global ambassador, so to say, of Ramakrishna Mission. So we are very fortunate to have Swami Sarvasthananda with us. So we request Swami Sarvasthananda ji to give his presentation.
Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. I am very happy to participate in today's webinar on a very important theme, Vivekananda and Interfaith Harmony for World Peace. We all know the world is going through a challenging period of transition today. It is confronting major challenges like the recent pandemic, climate change, environmental degradation on a massive scale, unsustainable consumption levels all over the world, and then widening inequalities among people of different classes, nations, ethnicities, gender, and a whole host of issues. There's an imperative need for a radical change to restore environment, equity, and long-term sustainability, which include consideration for our future generations as well. And to add to that, we also see many other evils like racism, inter-ethnic and religious conflict, which is returning all over the globe with renewed force. Ignoring Swami Vivekananda's warning against sectarianism, bigotry and fanaticism, in the World Parliament of Religions held in 1893, there has again appeared the demon of intolerance and violent conflict, including terrorism, all over the globe. You will remember in the very first address, Response to Welcome, delivered on 11 September, he gave the core message of his master, Shri Ramakrishna, which was supposed to be the core message of the Parliament too, and that was the validity of all religions and faith traditions. He explained how he belonged to both a nation and also a religion that did not persecute anyone in a long history of several thousand years, but rather offered shelter to whoever came to them. He ended his first address to the Parliament on quite a hopeful note that all will perhaps realize that they were all trying to reach the same goal, though they may try to reach the same by different paths. He said, the present convention, which is one of the most august assemblies ever held, is in itself a vindication, a declaration to the world of the wonderful doctrine preached in the Gita. Whosoever comes to me through whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through paths which in the end lead to me. Sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilizations, and sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But then there was a hope, there was a voice of optimism. He said, but that time has come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. Even today, we do not seem to have understood this message. Everyone seems to be adamant in proving one's faith tradition or religion to be unique and the only valid path to God. Arnold Toynbee, the famous British philosopher of history, best known for his monumental 12-volume work, A Study of History, wrote, "Today we are still living in this transitional chapter of the world's history, but it is already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race." He then continued. He said, "In the present age, the world has been united on the material plane by Western technology. But this Western skill has not only annihilated distance, it has armed peoples of the world with weapons of devastating power at a time when they have been brought to point-blank range of each other without yet having learned to know and love each other." And finally he concluded, "At this supremely dangerous moment in human history, the only way of salvation for mankind is an Indian way." Sri Ramakrishna's message was unique, and in that it was expressed in action. Religion is not just a matter for study. It is something that has to be experienced and has to be lived. And this is the field in which Sri Ramakrishna manifested his uniqueness. In Vivekananda's second address at the Parliament, the topic was why we disagree. He urged everyone to go beyond all obstacles, transcend boundaries, and try to interact with the faiths other than one's own and understand them in a spirit of acceptance and peaceful coexistence rather than mere tolerance. Trying to see unity in diversity was the message of his master, Sri Ramakrishna, who lived the eternal and universal principles of Vedanta in his own life. That would enable us not to have narrow, bigoted, and dogmatic thoughts and ideas about God and religion, but would rather help us live in harmony, even if there are countless ways to reach God. Then we see in his third address at the Parliament, which was the paper on Hinduism, he described the age-old antiquity of his religion and explained that Hinduism has many hues and colors of traditions and sects. The reason being that every person can practice religion according to one's own inclination and choose one's path to God as per one's own tendencies. And at the end he said that a universal religion can only be one that has no specific place or time, and that will be infinite like the God it preaches and will be open to all. In his own words, he said, it will be a religion which will have no place for persecution or intolerance in its polity, which will recognize divinity in every man and woman, and whose whole scope, whose whole force will be centered in aiding humanity to realize its own true divine nature. Though obviously we cannot hope to create such a universal religion, it is high time that at least we do not meddle with the religious choices of human beings, and that we allow every person on this earth to have his own conception of God while holding on sincerely to one's own faith. And then finally, in his sixth and final address at the final session, Swami Vivekananda affirmed that the lesson learned from the parliament was that no one religion can claim itself to be the ultimate. The solution is not to get converted to some other religion, living the religion one is born into. Rather, the solution lies in cultivating a peaceful and harmonious coexistence of numerous religions and faith traditions. He said that he pitied everyone who thinks that his or her religion will alone prevail. The unique contribution of Swami Vivekananda lies in the formulation of a synthetic unity when he said that each must assimilate the spirit of the others and yet preserve his individuality and grow according to his own law of growth. And at the end, he concluded with the following inspiring words. If the Parliament of Religions has shown anything to the world, it is this. It has proved to the world that holiness, purity, and charity are not the exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if some people still dream of the exclusive survival of their own religion and the destruction of the others, I pity them from the bottom of my heart and point out to them that upon the banner of every religion will be soon written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. The importance of Vivekananda's Chicago addresses was to rouse this unique sense of all-inclusive unity. Now, after more than 125 years, we need to do some serious soul searching and ask ourselves this question. Do we believe from the bottom of our hearts that there can be any number of paths to God? As his master Shri Ramakrishna said, if we believe so, we will be saved. Else, we will be consumed by hatred and destructions. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to share a few words, and I'm very happy on the eve of the 128th anniversary of the Swami Vivekananda's participation in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. We have all gathered here, people of different faiths have gathered here to renew our determination to create a peaceful and harmonious world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Swami Sarvasthananda for reminding us about the message of Swami Vivekananda delivered in the Parliament of Religions. Our next speaker is Oswald Cardinal Gracious. His Eminence Oswald Cardinal Gracious is the Archbishop of Bombay and the President of Catholic Bishops' Conference of India. He was also the former President of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India. At the Asian level, His Eminence was the former President of the Federation of Asian Bishops' Conferences. At the international level, His Eminence is part of the 8-member Council of Cardinals, who is closely collaborating with His Holiness Pope Francis to help with governing the Catholic Church. His Eminence is also a member of various offices of the Roman Curia. He is a member of the Roman Rota, the Church's highest appellate tribunal. He is also a member of the Congregation for Catholic Education and of the Pontifical Council for Legislative Texts. So, you can understand how busy he might be, or he is. But He acceded to our request. In spite of his busy schedule, at very short notice, he has sent his beautiful video message. Let us listen to the.
Dear Swamiji and all participants of this webinar, warm greetings to each one of you from India, from Mumbai, and from the Christian community, especially from the Roman Catholic community in India. Permit me to quote from the much remembered speech of Swami Vivekananda in the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. Sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant, fanaticism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilization, sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But the time has come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions, with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. Friends, we've heard these words often, but they're so insightful and so important. I think they should be etched in stone, because they remind us of how all of us have misused the tenets of our faith, have made our faith and our religions a tool for division rather than unity. This, I would say, is a disservice to humanity and honestly a deviation from the teachings of our religions. Every religion seeks to find God. Every religion seeks to answer the questions deepest in man's heart. Every religion strives to show man how to live. There is so much in common in all our religions. There is so much that unites us. In our search for God, we have followed different paths. But instead of dialogue and striving to find harmony, we often struggle to emphasize our differences. This is what Swami Vivekananda intuitively saw when he gave his much quoted address. We regret that we have not learned from past mistakes. We regret that we have not realized the need for dialogue. We regret that we have not tried to understand each other. God wants us to look outwards, to notice the beauty outside us, and to appreciate that. Because we did not listen to the warnings of Swami Vivekananda on September 11th, 1893, we had to experience the horrific events of September 11th, 2001. But friends, it is never too late. God is timeless. History unfolds before us. On behalf of my Christian brothers and sisters, I ask pardon for our failure to make humanity one family. On behalf of my Christian brothers and sisters, I commit ourselves to follow our own religion even more closely. The end result for each one of us will be unity and harmony. This is the duty of all religious leaders. Swamiji, thank you for having invited me for this meeting. I deeply appreciate being associated with this initiative of the Shri Ramakrishna Ashram in Rajkot. God bless you.
That was a wonderful message from Cardinal Oswald Gracious. He has wonderfully told about the need of the following of the message of Swami Vivekananda. Our next speaker is Swami Sarvasthananda. Swami Sarvasthananda has been appointed as minister and spiritual leader of the Vedanta Society of New York. He is a Nagral Fellow for 2019-20 at Harvard Divinity School. Prior to this, he served as an assistant minister of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. He joined the Ramakrishna Math Mission in 1994 and received sannyasa in 2004. Before being posted to Hollywood Temple, he served as an acharya, teacher of the Monastic Probationers Training Center at Bellumat. He has served the Ramakrishna Math and Mission in various capacities, including being the vice principal of the Devghar Vidyapit Higher Secondary School, principal of the Shikshana Mandira Teacher Education College at Bellumat, and the first registrar of the Vivekananda University at Bellumat. He remains very busy and he has captured the internet, as you know, is very popular speaker. But in spite of that, he has accepted our invitation and is online. And we request now Swami Sarvasthananda to take up the mic.
Can you hear me? Is this clear?
Yeah, clear.
All right, thank you. I offer my pranams to revered Swami Nikhileshwarananda Ji Maharaj, pranams to other revered monks, and namaskars to the other esteemed speakers here and to those who are watching us on various platforms online. I am speaking to you from New York, and it's noon in Manhattan here. This is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11, 2001 9/11 terrorist attacks, the worst terrorist attack in history, which killed more than 3,000 people in a place not far from where I'm sitting. Throughout today, there will be numerous events organized here to commemorate and honor the victims of this attack. There are open-air ballet performances. There are open-air music performances here. There is a photography exhibition on 9/11, just not too far from where I am. And today, is the volume low? Is the volume low? Should I adjust the mic? Okay, I guess it's all right. So today, in the evening, as the sun sets, there will be two pillars of light where the Twin Towers used to stand 20 years ago. There will be two pillars of light focused into the sky. And I'm told they will reach out to a height of 6 kilometers into the sky. I'll go out in the evening to take a look at that. Really, this is the story of two 9/11s. One 20 years ago, which we are honoring and commemorating here. And the other one in 1893, 127 years ago, in Chicago in the World Parliament of Religions, where Swami Vivekananda gave his landmark address. One is a problem, the one which happened, the terrible events of 20 years ago. And the other one, the earlier one, is the solution. We heard how different speakers spoke about how Swami Vivekananda said that we stand not only for tolerance, but also acceptance. We accept all religions as true. This idea of tolerance is a bit strange. It's very popular and common all over America and Europe, I think, but it does not translate too well into Indian languages. Sahishnuta, that sounds a little odd. Tolerance means somehow I am right, you are wrong, and I'm sort of putting up with you. The idea of the seed of violence and intolerance is always there in the idea of tolerance. Whereas Swami Vivekananda said that we accept all religions as true. Now, what I'm going to speak about over the next few minutes is, how does this work? You see, the problem is that the major religious traditions of the world are often contradictory. They often lay exclusive claim to the truth, that we alone have the truth, the others are wrong, and clearly what the different religions are teaching. They seem to contradict each other. So in this situation, how can we speak of a harmony of religions? How can we speak of accepting that all religions are true? There is one simple idea upon which Swami Vivekananda builds his paradigm of the harmony of religions. The simple idea is this: treat the religions of the world as paths, not truths in themselves, but as paths to the truth. What this means is this: all the religions are concerned with the ultimate reality. Some call it God, some are theistic, so they call it God or Allah or Brahman, Shiva. Now Ganapati festival is going on in India and all over the world. So that is the name for a theistic supreme power. Some are non-theistic, impersonal, like Buddhism or Jainism, for example. But they're all concerned with an ultimate reality. That ultimate reality is infinite, beyond language, beyond the human power to conceptualize. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that it's like an ant which saw a mountain of sugar, and it dragged one grain of that sugar with great difficulty to its little hole and looked back at the mountain of sugar and said, I'm going to come back and take the entire mountain of sugar. It's impossible for that little ant. And it's not necessary also. That little grain of sugar is enough to fulfill its hunger. Similarly, this infinite reality, which all the religions are concerned with, we, each enlightened person, each religion has one aspect of the truth. And that's enough. That can fulfill humanity. So when we try to express this infinite reality, which is beyond language, which is beyond our conception, the ability to conceive, then what happens is we give various expressions to it. Sri Ramakrishna uses the beautiful example that different people in a village in Bengal, they have these big ponds called pukur. So people of different communities go to that pond and use the water, but they call it by different names. Sri Ramakrishna said that the Hindus call it jal, in Bengali, jal. The Muslims call it pani, and the Englishman calls it water or aqua. But they're all referring to the same reality, which means that the same reality, which is beyond language, when you try to express it in language, and you have to express it in language because the scriptures of the world, of world religions, are language. When you try to express it in language, then you naturally give different kinds of expressions. But one must not forget, you are talking about the same reality. Just because I call it jal and somebody calls it pani does not mean that I'm referring to the truth and that person is referring to something false. Both are referring to the same reality. Now, this reality, by whatever name we call it, whatever theology we build around it, this is the goal of human life. God realization, enlightenment, call it moksha, salvation, nirvana, kaivalya, whatever you call it, this is the goal of human life. This is not only the goal of human life, this is the purpose of all religions. It's a simple point, but very difficult. People don't seem to get it. If you ask what is the purpose of religion, it's not politics. Religion is not even meant to, for social cohesion, politics, or social reform. All these are very good things. But the ultimate purpose of all religions is that liberating reality, that spiritual reality, which all religions are concerned with. As Sri Ramakrishna put it again in his beautiful examples, in a mango orchard, when you go there, there are delicious mangoes, and your business is to take the mango and eat it and enjoy it. Your business is not to count the leaves and the branches and how many fruit are there. So those are the non-essentials of religion. The essential of all religions is the realization of that divinity which religion is concerned with. Now, once we have these two ideas, the infinite nature of that reality beyond names and conceptions, which can be expressed in different names and different conceptions, and that this is the goal of all religions, once we have these two building blocks, you put them together, then what we have is that these religions themselves, the multiple religions, are paths to that same reality. This is the crucial understanding which Swami Vivekananda brought to bear for establishing interfaith harmony. If you see the religions as different paths, there is no need to quarrel. I mean, you can come to this place by different, your Google map will give you multiple routes to come to your destination. The routes are different, and each of them has its advantages and disadvantages, conveniences and inconveniences, but they all get you to your destination. You cannot say this route is true and that path is false, because they all work in the end. Sri Ramakrishna used to, once he says to a group of devotees who have assembled in his room in Dakshineshwar, in the Kali temple, he said, "Look, you have all come here. Some of you came from Calcutta by boat. Some of you came by carriage across the bridge. Some of you walked here. But in the end, you all got here. Similarly, the followers of different religions, they will all finally come to God. So there is no need to quarrel between those who are wending their way to the same divinity, following different paths." And this is what Swami Vivekananda said in his first address at the World Parliament of Religions in 1893. A question may arise here. So if all paths are true, am I supposed to practice different religions? Not at all. You are in fact supposed to follow one path, your path. If the paradigm still holds here, if you're going to a particular destination by one path and there are multiple paths to that, you obviously would not try to walk on multiple paths. You'll never get anywhere that way. The example of a man who was digging for water in one place, and it's hard work. After some time, he thought, that other place looks promising, and he started digging there. And then he got tired there, and he selected another place and started digging there. In this way, at the end of the day, he had no water. If he had probably dug deeper at the place where he had started, maybe he would have found water. Similarly, one definitely does need to stick to a particular practice, a particular path, follow a particular tradition. But the idea which Swami Vivekananda gave there in the World Parliament of Religions on 11 September 1893 was that since all these paths are true, since they all lead to ultimate reality, to spiritual freedom, to freedom from suffering, to ultimate fulfillment, since this is true, in that case, one should have respect for all the paths. One should have respect for all the founders of the different religions, and respect for the followers and the practices and the scriptures of the different traditions. For me personally, if I go to a church here, a mosque, a gurdwara, a Buddhist meditation temple, or a Hindu temple, I have no doubt at all. It is that same infinite reality beyond language, beyond conceptions, which in our world of humanity, we are seeing this extraordinarily diverse, multiple ways of approaching and worship and ultimate freedom. Here in our temple below, where I'm sitting, in that temple, in bold letters, it is written, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise express it differently, the wise speak of it differently. This is an idea which is as ancient as India itself. This is a quotation from the Rig Veda more than 5,000 years ago. It is in this age, Swami Vivekananda, who got it, was inspired by his master, Sri Ramakrishna, who have emphasized it. It's not original to them. This idea is embedded in the Indian tradition for 5,000 years. And not only just the Indian tradition, I believe that in all the religions of the world, there are these universal liberal ideas. I think those are the ideas which represent the true core of our world religious traditions. There are critics who say that, it is in a liberal society, for example, here in the United States or in India, it is the intolerant, the fanatical, the intransigent group which will ultimately prevail, because the liberal society will try their best to accommodate everybody, and the intransigent, the illiberal, fanatical group will not try to accommodate anybody else, but only try to push their own agenda. And so they ultimately, the critics say that they will progress and spread, that those ideas will win. I don't think so. I don't think so. And the history over the last 100 years, from 1893 till 2001, September 11, 2001, and down to today, in spite of violence, in spite of resurgence of fanaticism and terrorism, the fact is that larger and larger numbers of people across the world have accepted liberal ideas, at least in theory, at least in principle. Large numbers of people agree that it is much better to live in peace rather than to fight. It is much better to have harmony rather than conflict. I think the spirit of September 11, 1893, the spirit of Swami Vivekananda, the spirit of this ancient Indian tradition, and the spirit of the core of the world religions will triumph over disasters like September 11, 2001. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Swami Sarvpriyananda. Sarvpriyananda means who is beloved of all. So he has justified his name, and very nice speech just now we heard from him. And very truly, he remembered 9/11 of New York in 2001, 20th year, and the 9/11, 1893. And today is also 9/11, when we are remembering the two events in such a manner so that no further incident like 9/11 takes place. And he rightly pointed out the message of Sri Ramakrishna, how he practiced all the religions, and then say, Joto mot toto path, as many faiths, so many paths. And that is why Swami Vivekananda used to say, Sri Ramakrishna's life itself was the parliament of religions. Thank you, Swami Sarvpriyananda. Our next speaker is K. Kashan Basu. K. Kashan Basu is the founder president of Green Hope Foundation, Canada. She is a winner of the 2016 International Children's Peace Prize. She is a global influencer, TEDx speaker, author, musician, peace and sustainability campaigner, a Forbes 30 under 30. K. Kashan is the youngest trustee of the Parliament of the World's Religions, a United Nations human rights champion, one of Canada's top 25 women of influence, and the first ever winner of the Gorbachev Scholz Legacy Award for her work on nuclear disarmament. Through her Green Hope Foundation, she works tirelessly to amplify the voices of young people, women and girls in decision-making processes. She has spoken at over 200 United Nations and other global fora across 25 countries. And the biodata goes on and on. So here is a celebrity, the youngest celebrity here speaking in our forum also. So we heartily welcome K. Kashan Basu, and without waiting too much, I now request K. Kashan Basu to deliver her presentation.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, and good afternoon from Toronto, Canada. I feel truly blessed to be able to speak at a panel that commemorates Swami Vivekananda's legacy, whose teachings are ingrained in my upbringing as a Bengali Canadian. I have grown up listening to his speeches and reading his works, as well as being fortunate enough to visit the Vivekananda Rock in Kanyakumari just before the pandemic hit. As all my fellow panelists have stated, 128 years ago to this day, Swami Vivekananda gave a clarion call for peace and harmony and for an end to fanaticism, hoping that the inaugural gathering of the world's thought leaders in Chicago would be a harbinger of social change, one that would bring about the evolution of an enlightened and equitable social order. Now, today, more than a century later, when humanity is struggling in the throes of the pandemic, one that has metamorphosized into the most devastating event in human memory in terms of the scale of its suffering, much of which is sadly unrecorded and maybe yet to unfold itself, we have to acknowledge that we have not realized his vision. And to be more blatant, we have regressed even further than where we were 100 years ago. While we have progressed exponentially in terms of science and technology, this progress has come at the expense of our value system, and the benefits of this development have been absolutely inequitable. In the last decade, we have also witnessed the emergence of another dangerous trend, the rise of right-wing nationalism in the world's largest democracies, be it the USA, India, or member states of the European Union, that has polarized people and communities, driving erstwhile peacefully coexisting neighbors against one another. And at the root of it all is this pervading fear of resource inadequacy. With the global population about to cross 8 billion and over half the world's population now living in cities, it is abundantly clear that our planet's once bountiful natural resources are not enough to sustain us. And it is this fear that is driving nations to secure what they can for themselves or pillage and plunder from impoverished regions while cloaking it under the guise of patriotic fervor to appease the gullible masses. This, to me, is again an extremely narrow minded view that seeks to achieve short term gains. Essentially, we are caught in a vicious vortex of overconsumption and wastage that, with each passing day, is widening the gap between the haves and the have nots, exacerbating human discontent and suffering to new levels. But this juggernaut of despair can be stopped. If there is one positive that has emanated out of the current pandemic, it is a realization at all levels of governance that we must rebuild better. I avoid the jargon of building back better because if we build back to where we were, it wouldn't be better. The pandemic has humbled even the mightiest of nations, and this has led to a realization of how puny we humans are in the face of such phenomena. This awakening is fostering a new era of multilateralism and global cooperation, one that has given fresh impetus to addressing climate change and biodiversity loss, and the realization that we must move towards the creation of local circular bioeconomies and the restoration of peace and planetary balance. Swami Vivekananda had once said, "The more we come out and do good to others, the more our hearts will be purified and God will be in them." Unquote. This essentially has been our mantra at Green Hope Foundation, the social innovation enterprise that has been my vehicle of change making since I began my journey in the field as a 7-year-old. Our work has always been to elevate those whom the world seems to have forgotten and left behind, amongst them women, girls, and youth whose voices are never heard, faceless victims who suffer the consequences of someone else's greed. As a grassroots sustainability organization, we work with the world's most vulnerable communities who continue to be impacted by the loss of natural resources on which their survival has depended upon for centuries. In these regions, pollution contaminates the soil, air, and water. Deforestation and extraction of fossil fuels deplete their habitats, and species are fished or hunted to extinction. Overexploitation and unjust use of natural resources increases conflict and poverty amongst these people and harms other life forms as well. Too often, these communities who are amongst the world's poorest, though they have the smallest impact, bear the brunt of the damage done by others to the planet's atmosphere, land, and oceans. What we now need is the restoration of a global ethic and interfaith harmony, because All historical experiences demonstrate that humanity and our earth cannot be changed unless in the not too distant future an alteration in the consciousness of individuals is achieved. The time to vigorously alter the individual consciousness has now come, sooner than we would have anticipated. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to its knees and shown us how grossly inadequate our social infrastructure and recovery mechanisms are. It is of immense concern that till now we do not even know the extent of the severity, especially in the global south. In several least developed countries, we're working with communities who don't even have access to a healthcare center, let alone any form of hygiene and sanitation awareness. We're building resilience in these communities using education for sustainable development as a transformative tool, providing them with the skills and knowledge to build sustainable livelihoods while regenerating their natural environment and changing behaviors that is leading to improved health and social equity. Our actions are but a drop in the ocean of misery, but proves that it is possible to rebuild better in harmony with humanity and nature. The smiles on the faces of the children of these communities prove to us that the peace that our world is looking for so desperately through war and strife and the wanton desecration of our planet is present within all of us. Our work on the front lines, far away from the lens of the Western media, reminds us every day that humanity, as well as our planet's ecosystems, are at a tipping point. Many might not regenerate unless we take action now. As Swami Vivekananda had said so many years ago, and I quote, "Don't look back, forward infinite energy, infinite enthusiasm, infinite daring, and infinite patience. Then alone can great deeds be accomplished." Unquote. Now more than ever before, we need to adopt this global ethic in all of its entirety in order to build forward equal. It will require the engagement of all stakeholders, and the recovery process must be at the grassroots with the people for it to be resilient. And we must also be flexible in their implementation to tailor them to regional and local challenges so as to make them more effective, and we must constantly evaluate. The road to recovery will not be easy. Dialogue, action, greater understanding, and empathy will be the key ingredients that will see us through. We need to be together to come out stronger. Thank you.
Very much, Kahakash and Basu, for your very, very powerful speech and beautiful quotations from Swami Vivekananda. You have to go a long way. Very young. She is very young, and in this very young age, she has already achieved so much, and we wish her great success in her future. Our next speaker is Dr. Abdul Sami Bhuberi. He is the President, World Peace Council, India Chapter, and Founder Secretary General of World Sufi Parliament. He is a renowned journalist and writer in English, Hindi, Urdu, Marathi, Gujarati, Persian, and Arabic. Presently, he is serving as the editor of Shubhe Ummeed, that is Urdu, and the editor of Indo-Gulf Times English, an Arise newsletter. He holds many positions in various organizations. He has received various awards in the field of Urdu literary contribution and on educational services in India and abroad. He has been awarded by Maharashtra State Urdu Academy, Government of Maharashtra for journalistic contribution, by Indo-Iran Amity Forum of Chahabahar for international trade relations, Iran, by Indo-Turkish Cultural Society, New Delhi, etc. Apart from all this, what is more important is for us is that he is a good friend of Ramakrishna Mission, Whenever we have interfaith conferences, whether it is in Rajkot, whether it is Baroda, whether in Bombay, he is always there at a short notice. This time also we gave a very short notice and immediately agreed. Though he is not keeping well, still he is there with us. So I would now request Dr. Sami Bhuberi to give his presentation.
Swamiji?
Yeah, namaste.
Yeah, namaste. Can I
Yes,
say
you
a
are
few
audible.
words?
You are
Yes, sir.
audible.
Yeah, thank you. Sisters and brothers, namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings to distinguished speakers and viewers of international webinar on Swami Vivekananda and Interfaith Harmony for World Peace. My brother, Swami Nikuleshanji, invited me to participate in today's webinar under the auspices of Shri Ramakrishna Mission, Rajkot. I would love to mention it in a different style. I say that my name is Khan, Abdul Samir Khan. I am not a terrorist, but being a peace scientist as well as a person from Islamic faith and believer of Sufism, I am much influenced and impressed by Swami Vivekananda's mission of world peace and interfaith mission, which is the need of hour. Today, we are celebrating 128th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's addresses at the World's Parliament of Religions held in Chicago in 1893. I salute Swami Vivekananda's vision in this world. In his world, I quote, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilization, and sent whole nation to despair, unquote. He further says, I quote, unfortunately, even today, there's a violence in the world due to the fanaticism. That is why his message has become more relevant for bringing peace to the world. 125 years before, what Swami Vivekananda anticipated, such disastrous situation, we see it in many parts of the globe. Today, we have seen our Mother Earth is not only suffering from poverty, illiteracy, and many other problems, but the clashes between the fanaticism is more dangerous for any society or any nation. Swami Vivekananda gave message of peace to all religious faith leaders, and that they should eradicate such fanaticism. I, being an Indian, being a Muslim, and from a Sufi clan, our beloved nation always regards the whole world as a Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The Quran also says that we, all living human beings, are family of God. It means the whole world is a family. But today we are in 21st century. The world has shrinked just on the tip of our finger to bring the people closer to us, and we call it global village. There is no boundaries and borders in digital age. We can connect with each other as we are connected today to hear and to understand each other, be it a vision of Swami Vivekananda or our mission to nurture humanity globally. I am not a clergy. and I have no allergy for any clergy. But I have seen many times that some people of different faiths are not faithful to other faiths. One of the famous Urdu poets, Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal Lahori, in his beautiful Urdu Hindi stanza, say, Shakti भी शांति भी भक्तों के गीत में है, धरती के बासियों की मुक्ति प्रीत में है. That means firm strength, calm, peace shall blend in hymns of Hoteri sings. For them, love comes salvation to all earth's living things. In the last, I greet Swami Vivekananda Mission and Ramakrishna Math for gathering us to respect humanity and each other's faith, to love each other. I am much inspired by Swami Vivekananda, and on this platform, I would love to bring to your kind notice that all distinguished participants as World Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893, I have instituted a World Sufi Parliament to bring closer all faith leaders who are believers of Allah Almighty as one family. Please accept my humble salams to all of you and let the planet be safe from the vultures of the culture. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Abdul Sami Bhuberi, beautiful speech, short and sweet, and the ending was very nice, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Sami Bhuberi, that you accepted our invitation in spite of being not well at a short notice. Thank you so much, and we'll continue to have relationship. We move on to the next speaker. We are behind schedule, but we are coming to the almost the fag end of the webinar. We move on to next speaker, Bibi Kiranjot Kaur. She is a senior member of the Statutory Trust that manages historical Sikh Gurudwaras, SGPC, Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee. She is the only woman to hold the post of General Secretary of SGPC. She represents SGPC in interfaith dialogues at various international platforms, including the Parliament of World Religions and the Vatican. She initiated Dialogue of Sikhs with the Jews and is a member of the Advisory Forum of KICIID, a Vienna-based organization for interreligious and intercultural dialogue. She has been founder trustee of Guru Granth Sahib University, Punjab, and has been Senate member of Guru Nanak Dev University. She also served at Punjab Agriculture University on its board of management. So very learned speaker. I will now request Bibi Kiranjot Kaur to take up the mic.
Thank you, Swamiji. First of all, I would like to thank Swami Nikleshwaranand for inviting me to this webinar to share thoughts on world peace from the Sikh perspective. Before we talk about world peace, how do we define peace? Literally, the word peace is derived from the original Latin word pax, which means a pact, a control or an agreement to end war or any dispute and conflict between two people, two nations, or two antagonist groups of people. It's more of a military term which means cessation of hostility or war. History of human civilization is nothing but history of war, annexation, cruelty, subjugation, rebellion, war, and again the same circle. History tells us that 11th September 1893 was the time when India was under British Raj. It was popularly said that the sun never sets in the empire. Such was the expanse of British power. At a time when the British were subtly imposing their culture on India through education system, governance, and creating an environment where a section of Indians began to see their own culture and language as inferior, Swami Vivekananda spoke to the West in Chicago confidently and courageously about the dharma and culture he belonged to. He talked love, acceptance, peace, and got a standing ovation. Another 9/11 in modern times, the world saw destruction of the iconic Twin Towers in New York City, USA, that was motivated by hate, bigotry, and caused hundreds of innocent people to die a violent death. It started a 20-year war with Afghanistan, but did not result in peace, and more violence, hate, and destruction followed. War can bring peace of the graveyard, but may not result in lasting peace. As Albert Einstein said, peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, of law, of order, in short, of government. Religion focuses on peace within the human soul, and it is generally believed that eternal peace is achieved when the Atma merges with Paramatma regarding discarding its physical body. In the journey of life, spiritual and religious beliefs shape the thoughts and define character of a person and a nation. History is witness to wars in the name of religion, killing innocent people, and forcible conversion to another religion, all in the name of God. Perhaps in an effort to scale down the escalation of conflict within society, modern day democracies see religion as a hindrance to fraternity and communal harmony within society. They advocate separation of religion from politics and enact laws for it. Even in a country like India, with its vast religious and cultural heritage that has coexisted since centuries, people in power had started introducing policies that seek to obliterate any symbol of religion from public sphere. This policy impacts Sikhs particularly because of their distinctive symbols of faith like Kada and Kirpan. Now, Namratthari students wearing kirpan are asked to remove their kirpan before entering an examination hall. There have been instances of Amritthari Sikhs barred entry to places under high security because of their kirpan. This attempt at a safe and peaceful environment gives birth to resentment within a Sikh. So, what way does Sikhi show for peace on earth? Fifth Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, we take his example. He invited Sufi saint from Lahore, Sami Amir, to lay the foundation stone of Harmandir Sahib, popularly known as Golden Temple, to build Sikh place of worship. He edited Bani of Bhagats like Kabir, Ravidas, Surdas, Namdev, Jaydev, Baba Farid, and many more, besides Guru Nanak and his successors, into Pothi Sahib, the first compilation of Guru Granth Sahib. Despite this inclusive and non-confronting philosophy, Guru Arjan Dev Ji was martyred by Mughal Emperor Jahangir in a cruel way. Guruji was made to sit on a heated plate and hot sand was poured over his body. This event marked a turning point in Sikh history. It was recognized that it is not enough to follow only a pacific spiritual path. One needs strength to stand up and defend one's beliefs from bigotry and tyranny. Guru Arjan Dev Ji's successor, Guru Har Gobind Ji, symbolized this by wearing two swords, one for Miri and the other for Piri, the temporal and the spiritual authority, as he sat on the Gurgadi. Miri, temporal, is characterized by power, authority, and affluence, whereas Piri, spiritual, stands for poverty, renunciation, and the otherworldly look. The Sikh viewpoint is coexistence of Miri and Piri. It views individual life in its cosmic context. It gives one a sense of responsibility and participation in society so that one may raise the quality of life and value thereof by drawing strength from the supreme source and using it in the best interest of humanity. The gestalt of Miri Piri ideal is worldly activity in divine awareness so that one may acquire the traits of a complete person who is existentially one with the universal consciousness and empirically one with human life. An anecdote from Sikh history is often narrated. The Maratha saint Samrat Ramdas met Guru Har Gobind Ji and accused him of deviating from the path of his predecessor Guru Nanak. He asked what kind of sadhu keeps shastar, horses, army, and is called true king Sacha Patsha. Guru Har Gobind Sahib replied, Batan fakiri, zahar amiri, shastra garib ki rakhya, jarwane ki pakhya. His sword was to protect the poor and fight against tyranny. Guru Nanak renounced Maya, not the world. It sums up how Miri Peri plays out in the actual world. In contemporary times, a question worth pondering is every religion talks about love, peace, compassion, mercy, forgiveness. Then why does it not translate into action by followers of that religion? No religion teaches injustice, hatred, bigotry. Then why does it prevail in the world? The reason is that power politic recognizes no ethics and brazenly justifies that politics is dirty, meaning moral and ethical values have no place in it. Power is not for providing a system of governance that is based on justice, truth, and welfare of the people. It's more of a tool to acquire wealth, authority, and power that feeds one's ego. Unless religious people understand that religion is not confined to the place of worship or four walls of the house, but is an intrinsic part of human being and should reflect in every thought and action of the person, world peace will remain a distant dream. As Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Raj bina taram ne chale hai, taram bina sab dale male hai. So unless there is a power of religion over politics, we cannot really expect world peace. And this is the mantra for the Sikh mantra for world peace, the coexistence of the Miri and the Piri. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bibi Kiranjot Kaur. That was a very scholarly presentation. And we learned about Sikhism also, and also the ideas of Swami Vivekananda that you shared. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Jayasha. Dr. Jayasha is an ambassador of the Parliament of the World's Religions. He has a doctorate on relevance of Mahabharata, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita in modern management sciences. He also holds post-graduation in industrial relations, human resource development, labor laws, clinical psychology, computer science, and organization behavior. He is working as a CEO in an international organization for more than 18 years and also working as an honorary research consultant at Center for Culture and Development, Vadodara. He had worked with the Planning Commission of India in task force and working groups. He has been selected as the president of Antarrashtriya Pushti Margiya Vaishnava Parishad, Gujarat Pradesh. He attended Parliament of the World's Religions held at Salt Lake City, US in 2015. He participated in the faith-based Urban Thinkers Summit organized by United Nations Habitat in 2017 and was the only Indian to represent the summit. Apart from that, there are many more things, but this is a very short profile. And Dr. Jayasha is a very good friend of Ramakrishna Mission. And jointly, we organized many programs in Rajkot as well as in Baroda. And even for organizing this program, we got his very active help. So welcome, Dr. Jayasha. Please give your presentation. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Swamiji, for your wonderful presentation. I am very happy to deliver my views in this wonderful international webinar in presence of the chairman and vice chairperson of the Parliament of the World Religions. Among spiritual leaders who not only carry out their own practice sincerely, but also take action to solve problems they encounter in non-violent and compassionate ways. Usually I tell people that I don't consider myself as anything other than another of the 7 billion human beings alive today. Mentally, emotionally, and physically, we all are the same. Swami Vivekananda said during his speech in the World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago on 11th September 1893, I quote, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant, fanaticism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced. Unquote. Unfortunately, even today, there is violence in the world due to such fanaticism after more than 125 years of the Swami Vivekananda's message to the world. That is why Swami Vivekananda's message has become more relevant for bringing world peace. The entire 7 billion human beings want happiness and joy, but instead are faced by a multitude of problems, many of which are man-made. So there is a contradiction. No one wants problems, and yet we seem to bring them on ourselves. How does this come about? As a result of our emotions, especially our destructive emotions. Anger and jealousy are related to our sense of self-centeredness and our disregard for others. Self-centeredness easily gives rise to fear, which fosters irritation, which, when it blazes into anger, can provoke violence. The time has come to accept that if we are talking about peace in the world, we have to consider peace within ourselves. To achieve peace within ourselves, first I will tell you what interfaith is not, which ultimately will help to explain what it is. It is not a competition between Islam and Hinduism. It is not a competition between Islam and Christianity. It is not a competition between Islam and Buddhism. It is not between Catholic and Sunnis. Neither it is a contest between Shia and Pentecostal. It is not a measure of faith superiority. Interfaith is the positive reinforcement of relationships among all faiths as a social contract between them and their communities. This experience showed me that open communication is essential to ensure that learnings can't be manipulated or be prejudiced. Before starting an interfaith dialogue, everyone must be open-minded about their own religion and beliefs. This ensures the starting place is one of tolerance and that people are open to learning about others. Additionally, it is vital to be mindful of the labels and terminology you use for your events and interventions. I see that terms such as countering violent extremism cause discomfort and raises the arm for security threats, particularly as this term means different things to different people. Furthermore, it is crucial to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable. In some of our interfaith dialogues, we have had religious sects that are relatively isolated. Before starting, we consider everyone's comfort zones. We realized it was essential to those who are isolated that we limit any music in the background, which meant they felt more content and thus happy to participate. Additionally, I see that teaching activities how to lead interfaith dialogues and activities is just as important. We want to ensure dialogue leaders have a sufficient understanding of all the doctrines and can use this knowledge to navigate their own biases and participants' biases. We emphasize civic responsibilities rooted in local context and in local culture while liking to existing social ills. I think this makes learning more relevant and relatable to young people. In addition to dialogues, we educate primary and secondary school children about interfaith harmony, value formation, critical thinking, and tolerance. Patterns of thinking develop in early childhood. Therefore, giving children the tools to think critically and engage in dialogue will help them become thought leaders for harmony and tolerance. Recognizing biases towards other individuals and groups is the most crucial part of any interfaith activity. Once we recognize biases in ourselves, we can take steps to create a more equal and more accepting environment. To recognize our biases, we need to have the tool to think critically about the information we see. There are multiple ways to do this. For example, one can use dialogues and interfaith exhibitions to allow young people to showcase important symbols in their respective religions. To create a peaceful and tolerant world, we need to understand and appreciate each other's differences. Interfaith dialogues, activities, and developing critical thinking can help us identifying our implicit biases and prejudices. We should learn from the rich cultures and surroundings us and counter extremist narrative that seek to spread division within societies. Our experiences have shown us that young people are eager to learn and understand different religions. If we harness that enthusiasm, we can help prevent violent extremism together, and that will at the end will generate platform for the world peace. If we able to achieve peace within ourselves through effective interfaith dialogues and harmony, religions will definitely have a positive role to play in people's search for world peace. The moral principles and values contained in the teachings of great religious teachers are essential factors for the reduction and ultimate eradication of greed, hatred, and delusion, which form the root cause of various conflicts and wars, both within and without. Within oneself, these three evils or unwholesome roots bring about great unrest in the mind, resulting in physical outbursts of violence, culminating in global warfare. The fact that war begins in the minds of people is well recognized by certain peace-loving people. The preamble to UNESCO's constitution says, since wars begin in the minds of man, it is in the minds of man that the defenses of peace must be constructed. That is, if one wishes to have peace of mind, one must also construct defense of people in one's own mind. The world cannot have peace until nations and people begin to reduce their selfish desire for more and more material possessions, give up their racial arrogance, and eliminate their madness for worldly power. Material wealth alone cannot bring peace and happiness to the minds of people. The key to real and lasting peace lies in mental disarmaments, means disarming the minds from all kinds of poisonous defilements such as greed, hatred, jealousy, egoticism, etc. The negative aspects of religion lie in the madness of some so-called religionists who try to convert and win followers by hook or by crook, rather than adhering to proper instruction and guidance. The purposeful misinterpretation of spiritual text, listen my words carefully, the purposeful misinterpretation of spiritual text for various ulterior motives has led to religious persecutions, inquisitions, and holy wars. These terribly awful experiences have really marred the very name religion. In the context of today's spiritual need, religionists should work together in earnestness and not in jealous competition with one another. They must work in harmony and cooperate in the true spirit of service for the welfare and happiness of the many. It is only then that they can effectively influence the opinions of the masses and truly educate the people with some higher values of life, which are very necessary for peaceful coexistence and integrated human development. Differences in religious beliefs and practices should not hinder the progress of various religionists working for a common cause, for world peace. Let all religions teach people to be good and proclaim the brotherhood of humankind. Let religions teach people to be kind, to be tolerant, and to be understanding. Enough suffering and destruction have been caused by human cleverness. It is time that we pause and reflect upon the true values of religion and seek proper spiritual guidance to develop our goodness, to work for peace and harmony through interfaith dialogues instead of war and disunity. For the cause of humanity and for the cause of world peace, let us hope that all our religious leaders will stretch out their hands in friendship to one another and to all people, irrespective of races or creeds, with a genuine feeling of love and brotherhood, to work for a peaceful world and to work for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayasha. He has very rightly pointed out how we can take forward the message of harmony of religions of Swami Vivekananda further in this present scenario, and how all the religious leaders can come together to have harmony leading to world peace. Thank you very much. Before we have the presentation from the last speaker, we have certain announcements to be made, but that we will do after this last lecture, and then we will conclude. So please wait patiently just for a few minutes. Our next speaker and the last speaker is Swami Yogath Mananda. He joined Ramakrishna Order in 1976. After serving at Ramakrishna Math in Nagpur for 20 years, he was posted as the head of Ramakrishna Mission Shillong, Meghalaya, India. He came to United States in the summer of 2001 as the Minister of the Vedanta Society of Providence. Swami Yogath Mananda's present responsibilities include conducting Sunday services, weekly study classes, and organizing spiritual retreats. He is invited to preach Vedanta at different places in the United States. He also serves as the Hindu religious affiliate at the Brown University, Providence, and the Hindu chaplain at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, MA. So, we are thankful to Swami Yogath Mananda ji for kindly accepting our invitation. Just now, a parallel program is going on in his own society. In spite of that, he took time to send us his video message. Let us listen to Swami Yogath Mananda.
Dear friends, I am very thankful to revered Nikhileshwarananda Ji Maharaj for conferring the honor to participate in this international webinar to commemorate Swami Vivekananda's speech at the World's Parliament of Religions on 11th September 1893. 128 years ago. What he said in just a few but tremendously powerful words on that day pointed out the common goal of all religions and thereby establishing the global harmony amongst them. Of course, we need to go a long way to realize that tremendous breadth and depth of his message on that day. While we certainly are see the great positive effects all over the world of that message over a century, yet a lot more needs to be done too to bring about that harmony in our individual and collective life. I am not going to give a big talk here, as there are so many others who will be presenting their very valuable thoughts. But let me point out to one thing here, that while as Indians we must be proud of Swamiji's message, Swamiji's work, we must be wary of the attempts to use the figure of Vivekananda to advance one's political agenda. Also, I found that in USA, people pay much more attention to learn about all world religions. I go to various colleges, universities, schools here to teach about Hinduism, and I see that the practitioners and the leaders from all other faiths also visit that school to impart some core ideas of their religions and answer the questions. There is a class of world religions. For at every school and even at universities, in many universities there is the wonderful program of religious literacy. Means just as literacy, you have to get at least the skills of reading and writing and so forth. So similarly, to know the rudiments of every religion, there is a lot of importance given to it. Whereas I didn't find that initiative in our universities and schools to impart these rudimentary ideas to all students, all citizens through them, that what each religion teaches. And so we just say glibly that yes, we know all religions are kind of same, a glibly pronounced statement without knowing any religion. So therefore, we must pay attention to this, that we have opinions without knowledge. As Swami Vivekananda mentioned about studying comparative religion, at many places he has emphasized this, that how the study of comparative religions makes your understanding about your own religion more clear. And so while one should certainly be remembering the message given by Swami Vivekananda, and we must go deep and try to imbibe that all religions, how they lead ultimately to the same goal. It is not that all religions are same, not that we have to make one religion out of them, but the diversity of religions is to be accepted and respected. One need not say my religion is superior to your religion. By saying this, we actually undermine our own religion. Therefore, by studying the message of Vivekananda on this very special day, we will become ourselves like Vivekananda. In that respect, I mean, to some extent, he was himself a parliament of religions. If you see in his works how deep was his knowledge and respect too about each religion. It is therefore he could proclaim those ideas with that confidence and could make others also feel that. It is the understanding that we must have, respect that we should have for every religion. That is what we see from this great message. And as Indians, we have much more responsibility to imbibe that message, and then through imbibing, then we can distribute it. We can give friends only that which we have. What we don't have, there is no likelihood of our giving it to others. And thus, on this day, as I mentioned, I am not going to keep on boring you with a long lecture, but it is my humble prayer that may we all get to the spirit of Swami Vivekananda about all various religions, harmony of religions, and the purpose of understanding all that is to realize the ultimate goal of our life. Let us not forget that Swami Vivekananda again and again mentions that religion does not lie in dogmas or books. Religion is being and becoming. It is matter of realization. Let us pray to Shri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda that may our lives get illumined through imbibing this message of Swami Vivekananda that was delivered 128 years ago, and then after making our lives illumined through that, let us scatter that illumination in and through our lives and world all over the globe. My thanks again to revered Nikhileshwaranandji Maharaj, and my greetings to all the other participants in this webinar and all the listeners. My greetings and salutations to them too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swami Yogath Mananji, for your very interesting lecture and for emphasizing on learning about all the other religions in order to know our own religion properly, and reminding us the message of Swami Vivekananda that religion is realization. It does not consist in doctrines or dogmas. Thank you very much. And before I invite Swami Medhajanandaji to give vote of thanks, just a few announcements that we would request you to kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you will receive the notifications of all the programs. We conduct so many programs online. In fact, every day there is online satsang consisting of the lectures, discourses from Srimad Bhagavata, Ramcharitmanas, and question answer session and all that. Plus, we conduct various programs from time to time. I wanted to tell something about the activities of Ramakrishna Ashrama Rajkot, but I restrain myself. I would rather request you to go through our website www.rkmrajkot.org and get acquainted with our activities. We would like you to be actively associated with us in whatever form and continue to have dialogue, continue to have the contact with us. And we will be ending with a very important quotation from Swami Vivekananda. Before that, I request Swami Medhajananda to formally propose vote of thanks.
Namaste to all. On behalf of Shri Ramakrishna Ashrama Rajkot, we would like to convey our thanks to respected speakers. We offer our humble pranams to revered Swami Suviranandaji Maharaj, the General Secretary of Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. We are grateful to him for his kind benedictory address. We are thankful to Ambassador Vishal Sharma ji, Oswald Cardinal Gracias, and Swami Yogatmanandaji Maharaj for sending their video messages on the webinar of Swami Vivekananda and Interfaith Harmony for World Peace. We are thankful to Shri Nitin Ajmera, Dr. Dholi Dastur, Swami Ishatmananda, Swami Sarvasthananda, Swami Sarvapriyananda, Miss Kehakashan Basu, Dr. Sami Bhuberi, Bibi Kiranjot Kaur for joining us online to share their valuable thoughts. We express our gratitude to Shri Jayasha in helping us organize this interfaith program. Lastly, we convey our thanks to all of you who are watching this program with interest. Namaste, Dhanyavad.
Now we conclude the program by what Swami Vivekananda said on the last day of the Parliament of Religions, World's Parliament of Religions, Chicago. That was on 27 September 1893. And the concluding part is, if the Parliament of Religions has shown anything to the world, it is this. It has proved to the world that holiness, purity, and charity are not the exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreams of the exclusive survival of his own religion and the destruction of the others, I pity him from the bottom of my heart and point out to him that upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. We conclude with our prayers to Shri Ramakrishna, Sharda Devi and Swami Vivekananda. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatar varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha jananim sharadam devim Ramakrishnam jagadgurum pad padme tayo shritva pranamami muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.